Hey guys, this is John Mark. So last episode, I spent a lot of time talking about urgency and what makes wrestling feel like you need to be there right now. After recording, I just couldn't shake this idea. So I wanted to do this episode as a follow up because I want to know if maybe some data kind of backs up that feeling. I'm not here today to declare Raw up or down, but to understand how the Netflix era changes viewer behavior. Now, quick ground rules here. These are rounded ranges from public reporting and analysis. You can see the sources on the chart I'm about to show you. The point of this whole thing is this isn't precision, it's pattern. And that's why the message today is that behavior matters more than precision. Now, we're going to put up the chart. And again, you can see the sources on the graph. We'll take a look at row one, which shows the Raw Netflix launch in January 6th, 2025. And what we see here is this big reach, big curiosity. But my assumption here is that this represents some kind of a sampling spike. It tells you how many people were willing to check Raw out because it's new and it's frictionless. You just jump on at any point or you can watch it live. But that's not good enough because launch week tells you reach. It doesn't tell you urgency. So we took a look at some more events. Raw 2 weeks before Royal Rumble. That was on January the 13th, 2025. This is one of those weeks where the calendar says it should feel like don't miss this. But in the Netflix world, there's a difference between importance and urgency. Now, it's important to remember that before Netflix, Raw used to be appointment viewing. What does that mean? Well, if you didn't watch it, you missed it. Now, it's an important week, but it's just not time sensitive anymore. And so why? Well, the calendar says this matters. Netflix doesn't say watch now. The next one we'll look at is Royal Rumble. Again, it's important to note here that this was Peacock only in the US, not part of the ESPN Hulu bundle as we saw in last week's Rumble. Now, in theory, that matters because a Peacock only product creates more friction. Well, because you can't gain access to the same event through the other two channels, right? Now, more friction typically would be associated with front loaded viewing. And for that reason, Rumble 2025 still behaves like a classic tent pole with a deadline. People are going to show up early, and that's important. Now, we take a look at Raw 2 weeks before Rumble 2026. This is a clean comparison for us. It's the same calendar pressure, still Netflix Raw, and the number is solid and people are watching it. But I have to make the assumption that this behavior is spread out, right? Because again, you can watch it anytime you want. So people watched it. I just don't think they watched with urgency. Now, take a look at Royal Rumble 2026. It's an important point here because it's still Peacock in the US, but as we now know, it's available through Peacock, Hulu, and the ESPN bundle. Now, in theory, this reduces access friction because more people can stumble into it without deliberately seeking out Peacock. I think that's, to be honest, I think that's probably a pretty small fraction of the overall. But, with the data we have, that's really all we can take away from it. The event still matters, but again, lower friction plus modern habit just creates a longer tail. So that's it with the chart. Sorry for geeking out there. Take everything I say with a grain of salt. There's not a lot of data out there for the public to use. And also, I'm not a statistician or a TV executive or even a chief content officer. So I don't begin to claim any authority here. But I am a mark, and I very much crave an emotional spark when I watch WWE, and that's why I'm looking at it from that perspective. So what's my initial reaction here? Well, this is really where streaming, I think, changes the incentive structure for people like me. On Netflix, you can miss live time. Wake up the next morning, watch the clips, read the discourse, read the mud sheets, and feel caught up. That's why in a streaming world, spots start doing more work than the storylines. Spots clip clean, they travel fast, and they don't require commitment. Stories require sequencing. Stories need urgency. So what we see here is that streaming really turns wrestling into something you can understand at an intellectual level without really experiencing it. Now, does the Rumble still matter? Absolutely. The Rumble creates what I would consider to be more structured urgency, not just story urgency. See, you can't fully understand the Rumble through highlights because highlights don't tell you like who worked, how momentum shifted, how the crowd turned, emotions between the wrestlers as the show progressed. And this is important. Like, the in-ring politicking and the teams that formed and how they turned on each other. I mean, here's a good example. I mean, did you guys see Io Sky's face as she saw Kyrie accidentally eliminate Asuka? I mean, that expression signals something to me, and I can't help but wonder how that is going to play out in the coming weeks, especially given their Yoshi backgrounds and storytelling traditions. Another example, it was the Oba Femi and Brock Lesnar. when their eyes like met and they stood in the ring and stared at each other. Like, these are the things that excite me for Mania from a storytelling perspective. And in some ways, if I missed the match and didn't have time to rewatch it, I missed that. And the product, in some ways, represents a penalty for missing a big event where storylines for WrestleMania traditionally take form. So what's the big picture here? And again, none of this is about WWE not trying, WWE being lazy. I think it's really more about the WWE's evolution as it moves into the streaming era. Listen, the talent is insane. Production is unmatched. But, for people like me, incentives have changed. WWE is a publicly traded company, the market leader, and streaming rewards scale, retention, and consistency. And that's good for revenue. That's good for reach. But that doesn't mean good wrestling. So unless our exploration into this topic takes me off it, my standing hypothesis remains that the reason the product feels lighter is because WWE doesn't need you now. They need you eventually. So the takeaway is simple. The numbers stayed strong, the urgency didn't. And the Rumble is the exception because the format still creates consequences that clips can't replace. Now, again, this isn't a verdict, it's just an observation from a mark. And it's exactly the tension we're going to keep digging into. So thank you for your time. If you think I'm off the mark, let me know below. If you like where Charles and I are taking this project, please subscribe and give us a like. Okay, we'll see y'all next time.